Hello everyone, my name is Allegra Integra and I am filming way too late at night tonight because I just felt like making this video. You can probably tell by my terrible end of day makeup and the crappy lighting, but this is a hobby. It's something that I'm doing for fun, so let's just get into what this video is about. Like a lot of people who read, even pre-booktube, I have, I guess, like a pile of shame, and I'm not sure how I want to address doing this. I've seen some other people do things like these books will self-destruct if I don't read them within a year, which I think is a really cool concept. I think I'm going to give myself a slightly shorter time frame for these, some of these. Most of these are books that are on my pile of shame, books I've had for a long time, books that I should have read a long time ago. There is one that I recently purchased and it's kind of, I'm just including it in this video because I wanted to and I didn't feel like making a separate announcement video for that project. So I will just get right into my the books I've owned the longest that I need to get to. Also, if you're noticing that my lovely monstera, my little baby monstera is missing, and a few other plants, because some people made some really lovely comments about the plants in my background, they are currently living their best life outside to soak up that summer sun as long as they can get it. I live in the Midwest. Summer is limited here. It's been really hot this year, but I'm just trying to let my plants live their best life. Can you tell I'm tired? The first book on my pile of shame, these aren't in any specific order, just what I picked up, is Under the Pendulum Sun by Jeanette Ng. That cover is gorgeous. I love purple. I used to have purple hair and now I'm committed to this bright red. I don't know why. I'd like to change things up, and that's probably why I haven't read some of these books in a long time. Anyway, this is a fantasy novel that I think I saw referred to. Some of my friends had mentioned it, people I don't see all the time but whose tastes I generally trust. And I purchased it and I never picked it up. I also I'm looking at how much this cost and I got this, I must have bought this 5 years ago. When was this published? 2017, so not 5 years. Can I math? 4 years ago. I think I got it when it was newly published. It was $9. $9. I can't find books. I can't find brand new floppy paperbacks for $9 anymore. Or $10. Again, math. Reading. It's late at night. I shouldn't even be filming. The basic gist of this is a woman named Catherine. Her brother Leon has disappeared while bringing the Gospels to the Dark Continent, which is not Africa, but Arcadia, which is the land of the Fae. This came out around the time I was trying to get more into Fae folklore. Please do not recommend Sarah J. Maas to me. I'm not going to read it. I have no interest. I want to explore other Fae worlds. And I just haven't picked it up. I got it in a time in my life when I wasn't reading very much, and I thought maybe it would spark something because this cover is just this lovely, beautiful purple. I just really like that art, and I love the concept of Fae when we're talking about them being really otherworldly and dark and fairy, original fairy tale or original myth Fae. Not big, sexy, beautiful Fae, not Tinkerbell, mischief-causing Puck-style imps. That is my jam. I say it is anyway, but I actually haven't read a lot of books that use that in their plotline, and that's what this is about. So I'm hoping to get to this by the end of the year. I've heard some mixed reviews since I picked it up, but that's okay. It's kind of long. How many pages is this? No, just under 400. It's not extremely long, but it's not going to be a quick read either. So I'm hoping to get to this by the end of the year. I will review this and then if I want to do it. I've had it for so long that I feel bad that I haven't gotten to it at this point. The next book is also a book that was published in 2017 and I bought shortly after its publication, and that is The Vegetarian's Guide to Eating Meat by Marissa Landrigan. I actually went to a reading by this author and bought the book there at a library. So why haven't I picked this up yet? It's absolutely up my alley. This is a nonfiction. It's a memoir about her exploration after becoming a vegetarian and then her exploration of where does her food actually come from, including where does meat actually come from. So I am a vegetarian, and I have been a vegetarian for 15 years, maybe a little shorter than that. And I actually came from a hunting background. Like, I've been hunting before. I grew up eating game. I have family members, extended family members who are farmers who had pig farms. So like, I'm very well aware of where like meat comes from. So I think this will be an interesting perspective, and because it's kind of the opposite of the way that I came to terms with my diet. This is subtitled A Young Woman's Search for Ethical Food. I know that's a really fraught subject, and even in the last 4 years, the conversations around that have changed. But I am interested in this memoir style book, and it's a nonfiction that is something that is really near and dear to my heart, food ethics, and I haven't picked it up. The next book that I have on this list that I need to finish soon is The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks. This is kind of a huge bit of shame for me because I have a degree in psychology, and Oliver Sacks is kind of important in that respect. If you know anything about him, he was actually a neuroscientist, I believe. See, I'm doing terrible. Yeah, he studied neurological disorders, and he also actually struggled with, I believe, he had a lack of, he couldn't recognize faces. So that was part of what inspired him to research this more thoroughly. And I had initially gone back to school post-psychology BS to get a degree in neuroscience, found out I was terrible at physics, and switched to genetics. But the fact that those were my major interests and I haven't read anything about Oliver Sacks or by Oliver Sacks other than in my textbooks is kind of a travesty. So yeah, this is something that I'm looking forward to. It's kind of a classic in neuroscience and psychology, and it's sad that I haven't read it yet. Speaking of like classics, I have had this, for probably 10 years. And it is definitely a classic, and that is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. This is the book that Blade Runner is based on loosely. I love the original Blade Runner. I should say I love the director's cut of Blade Runner. I haven't seen the new one, and I'm not a huge movie watcher, but I really liked the original, the first version that I saw of the Blade Runner movies. You can tell I've had this forever because it's water damaged, even though I've never picked it up to read it. And I am trying to get back to my sci-fi roots, and clearly Philip K. Dick is a big part of that. So hopefully this will be something I finish really soon as well. I keep saying that because that's the point of this video. But who is a science fiction fan and hasn't read this? Like, why have I been avoiding this for so long? I've owned it forever. The next book is another one that it's really sad that I haven't read this yet because I kickstarted this and I got it through the Kickstarter, and it becomes very apparent once I pull it up, and that is Becoming Dangerous, Witchy Femmes, Queer Conjurers, and Magical Rebels on Summoning the Power to Resist. This is edited by Katie West and Jasmine Elliott, and look at it's so shiny. I also, like, you can tell I kickstarted this because it even came with like the bonus, like, this book belongs to Bookplate. And it was published in 2018, so it's not as bad as some of the other books that I am waiting on reading. It's an anthology that talks about rituals and their importance. It specifically says here, 21 writers share the rituals they use to bring themselves power in a world that prefers them powerless. These are rituals to resist and survive self-doubt, grief and depression, immigration, slut-shaming, and the patriarchy, ableism, racism, and other systems of oppression. Some identify as witches, while others identify as writers, musicians, or artists. Why haven't I read this? I identify as a witch. I am a feminist. Like, this is something that I bought, I backed it on Kickstarter, so there was no guarantee it was even going to happen because that's how much I believed in it, and I haven't read it yet. I think this is probably even more relevant today. I mean, clearly in 2018, this information was really important, but things are constantly changing. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world that are relevant to what I do for my career and just being a good global citizen. And I'm so mad at myself. I just need to read this. I think this will actually probably be the first one I finish out of this list because it's something that I keep being drawn to it, but I wonder if I'm a little too, I have too high of expectations for it, so that's why I've been avoiding it. And that's just silly because books are meant to be enjoyed and it doesn't have to be perfect, and there's probably a lot of good stuff in here. Since it's an anthology, there's got to be at least one essay that resonates with me. So yeah, that is Becoming Dangerous, and it's just sad that I haven't picked this up. And last on my actual pile of shame is going to be Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang. This is a collection of science fiction short stories. One of them includes the short story that is what the movie Arrival is based on. And I know I said earlier I'm not a big movie person, but I really loved that movie. When I do go to movies, I'm much pickier about them than I am with books for some reason. And my mother actually got this for me the same year that movie came out. So I'm not going to look that up right now. But I've had it for a while. And I know at least one of you watching has been telling me for a while that I need to read this. It's going to be a staple in my sci-fi collection, I'm sure. I just haven't been picking these things up. I guess my excuse for not picking these up is, at least recently, is that I've been using my local library and those books have a time limit on them. But I've had so many of these. I've moved some of these to multiple different houses. Like, I'm paying to move them around and I haven't read them. So yeah, this is the last book that I have on like my pile of shame. These books need to be read by X time frame. I haven't decided exactly how I want to do this, but this and Becoming Dangerous will probably be prioritized because of the fact that they're both not short stories, but shorter pieces, so they'll be a little easier to read in chunks, as well as I don't have a reason. I think these are the ones that are calling to me the most. I just wanted to include this. I actually haven't owned a copy of this book for very long. I recently went to a local bookstore and picked it up because I've been wanting to read more classics. When I say classics, I mean specifically like the Western canon, although I guess you could argue that Russia is in its own unique space. Regardless, when I'm talking about classics, I'm talking about in the United States what people think of when you say the word classics, Penguin classics, etc., etc. And I picked this up and I'm planning on starting it, and it's going to be quite the endeavor, and you'll see why in a second. Because this is my mother's favorite author, or one of her favorite authors, and I have never read anything by him, and I keep saying I'm going to, and I keep saying I'm going to. It's time. Like, I am hitting a point in my life where I need to be, like, start to get to those, like, once in a lifetime or those life-changing books. And I was also inspired by some other YouTubers' recent experiences with this book, specifically Emmy, I believe. I'll link her down below. And that probably gave it away if you follow her, and that is going to be War and Peace. So I didn't want to make my own video like announcing that I'm going to start doing this, but I do plan on like documenting my journey with this 1,300 page difficult classic. I don't do things in half measures. If you don't know me well, you'll learn that really quick. I'm intimidated by this. Yeah, let's read more classics and get into one of like the most dense, difficult ones that you can think of, Allegra. That's smart. But those are kind of my books that I need to get to within the next 6 months, is what I'll say, not the end of the year. I'm going to be pretty strict about it. If I don't read them, I'll probably unhaul them because I'm tired of moving them around, and I'm tired of having them stare at me on my shelves and say, hey, you need to finish me. With the exception of War and Peace. We'll see how long it takes me to get through that, but I'm going to start that very soon. Just didn't want to make a separate video for it. That's all that I have. I'm going to edit this real quick and hopefully have it up for you soon. Bye!